there's a lot of naysayers out there, right, who are really questioning Gucci's decision or Kering's decision to move Demna from Balenciaga to Gucci. Right? A lot of naysayers out there. This is just a casual observation from me. I'm really rooting for him to succeed. On paper, it looks like it won't be a good fit. On paper, or like judging by his previous collections at Balenciaga, which haven't been that great, it doesn't fill you with a lot of enthusiasm. And if you read between the lines or you believe the rumors online, especially on Twitter from certain people who are saying that Demna allegedly is indulging himself in the nightlife scene in Paris. I think he was living in Zurich for a bit, but I guess he might have moved to Paris now. Because I remember when he first signed with Balenciaga and he ended up leaving Vetements to focus on Balenciaga, the idea of going to Zurich was to focus more on the work and not be, enticed by the scene in Paris and shit. So he purposely went to Zurich to kind of work out there. But I guess he probably got tired of it, bored of it, or maybe wanted to move closer to the studio. So then he moved now, allegedly, I think, to Paris to enjoy himself over there. And according to people on the ground floor, he is maybe indulging himself a little bit too much and having a little bit too much out there in the nightlife circuit, which might explain why we get such lackluster collections. Maybe it explains it. It also could be the case that we're just getting tired of that silhouette, that aesthetic. Most people are. I'm not personally. Maybe because I have that European in me when it comes to living over here, and maybe that kind of Central European chic, that Eastern Bloc chic, that whatever kind of resonates more with me than anything else. And maybe because as well the silhouette, the shapes kind of suit my frame. Especially for like a high-end designer, there's not a lot of them out there that can kind of make clothes, I think, that kind of appeal to most people in terms of the shapes and the sizes and whatnot. But I'm really rooting for him. I'm really rooting for him because there's a lot of naysayers out there. Everyone's kind of counting him out. And I would love to see a comeback story. I'd love to see a collection where Demna sort of like inspires or, basically reminds everybody of how good a designer he is. Because according to Kanye, Demna was allegedly offered the role at Margiela. Allegedly. He was offered the role at Margiela and allegedly turned it down. So clearly, despite his maybe not so innovative latest designs, the fact that he still, is able to make stuff that people want to buy, maybe this is proof that he's still that guy. Maybe, who knows? But anyway, I want to quickly read his caption, courtesy of BOF, Biz of Fashion. Via this, it says the following: the success of the new Gucci strategy rests on one critical question. Can Demna himself move his creativity forward? If Demna simply takes his Vetements and Balenciaga look and implements that of Gucci, it will not work. But I don't know if I'm going to be that. Imran Ahmed, obviously the founder, editor-in-chief of Business of Fashion, I don't know if you could say that outright and, with any kind of level of certainty. Because if he's able to go there and sort of like revive that aesthetic that he made popular, because, the Vetements, the Demna era Vetements, no one's been able to replicate that, right? The Vetements that we have now that his brother runs, Gorum, is a shadow of what the former brand was. So that aesthetic, I think, is still it's not that similar from what he did at Balenciaga anyway. It was very different. There was a clear separation, I felt, from what he did at Vetements and what he did at Balenciaga. I don't feel like there's any overlap whatsoever. So I think if he can somehow, take back or revive, sprinkle in some of that early success that he had at Balenciaga, especially the first couple of collections, and do that over at Gucci, I think he'll be on a good run. And I think it's possible. I really do think it's possible because he does have this tendency or this knack to know how to create things that people want. There's a lot of desirability in the things that he does. Don't get me wrong. The only downside of that is that I can't remember a lot of hit products that have come from the recent collections. Maybe the closest thing I can think of a hit product might be those Ugg boot type things. They're like fire high Ugg boot things that he's made. I see a lot of fashion kids wearing those, but there hasn't been a lot of like popping products that he's been able to push out there. So I'm curious to see how that ends up getting implemented. According to Business of Fashion, Kering's shares have dropped by more than 12% after Gucci's Demna appointment. So clearly the people, the stockbrokers, stock market people, shareholders, whatever they may be, they don't feel as optimistic or as confident as I am that Demna can turn things around and remind people just how good of a designer he is. They're looking at maybe his previous work, maybe trends, and thinking that it's only one way down, only one way it's going to go down. I think there's some truth to that, obviously. But I think the fact that Demna is still, or the fact that Balenciaga is still selling pretty well, despite Demna maybe being his most uninspired he's ever been, kind of goes to show that he still has the ability to kind of, have his finger on the pulse, still have the ability to kind of follow through and produce. So if you can do that at Gucci, I think you'll be good. I really do think you'll be good. According to BOF, can Demna reassert Gucci's fashion authority? This is a response courtesy of BOF's Instagram poll. 10 people say yes, probably including me. Not sure, 27%, and a whopping 64% of people think he can't do it. Now, to be fair to BOF, or to be fair to give Demna a bit of credit here, I think right, this particular poll or this platform is similar to like fashion. What's it called? Style. No, I forgot what the fucking site is called, but a lot of people that kind of read this sort of stuff are usually fashion enthusiasts, are usually people that work in the industry, and usually those type of people are a lot more cynical and less optimistic than shoppers, stands, brand fucking fiends, and whatever else it may be, who are the ones that kind of contribute to the crazy sales numbers that brands in Kering and Balenciaga have. So I'm of the belief that a lot of people out there who are fans of Demna, who are fans of Balenciaga, are probably a lot more optimistic than the fashion community at large. I think so, especially some of the Gucci fans, because of what they've been going through, right? Ever since Alessandro Michele left and Salvatore De Sarno kind of got the reins, people are probably missing out or fiending for Gucci that they can kind of rally behind and love. And I think Demna's going to give people that feeling. He's definitely going to make you feel something. Salvatore De Sarno probably made no one feel anything, but I think Demna will definitely make people feel something. So let's read the what you call it, the caption courtesy of Imran Ahmed and BOF says, my initial reaction when I learned that Demna will be appointed artistic director of Gucci was one of surprise. Although Demna's name has begun to circulate as a potential candidate during Paris Fashion Week, I didn't believe Kering would choose him to take on the challenge of restoring Gucci's fashion credibility and sales momentum in a deeply troubled luxury market. After gorging on fashion products during the pandemic, demand for luxury fashion is waning. The only way to get customers to pay attention to fashion like brands like Gucci is to offer something new and exciting, something that connects with the current moment and pushes fashion forward. Yeah, exactly. And if that's the case, then Demna's the right person. In terms of creating products for the moment, Demna's obviously the right person, in my opinion. Is Demna the right person for the job? Judging by the reaction from the financial markets and the fashion fans on social media, the answer is no. Kering shares plunged by 12% on Friday morning after the digesting the announcement. Of the more than 9,000 people who replied to BOF's Instagram poll on Thursday, only 10% of people believe that Demna is the right pick. If Demna simply takes his Vetements Balenciaga look to implement it on Gucci, it will not work. Indeed, we already know what it looks like after the hacker project that brought Demna's Balenciaga and Sonia Michele's Gucci together in a vibrant mashup of unique looks at the height of their creative powers at those brands back in 2021. What I can say without doubt is this: Demna is one of the most provocative and thoughtful people working in fashion, and someone who is deeply committed to his work. If there's anyone in fashion who's up to the challenge, it's Demna. More recently, he's been focusing on his own personal wellness and happiness. And I think it's now emotionally ready for a new biggest job. Okay, cool. So that's a good, interesting insight there about the wellness. So that might actually connect with this rumor that he's been out there partying a bit. So maybe this is the case. Maybe he has kind of softened up, because I did see a video of him receiving an award at some press conference thing. And I'm not going to lie, he looked a little bit worse for wear. Either it was filler or he had that booze face where his face looked kind of inflamed. So, if he is focusing on his health and his wellness and shit, I'm happy for that. And hopefully we'll see that reflected in the collections and you'll return back to form, because I love a good underdog, I love a good comeback story. And I think Demna was the right person to kind of root for in this regard. So really, I'm hoping that he's able to do it, and I'm hoping he can.